Well, hello there, and welcome to this year's Day of Prayer, where we get to pause and to pray and to give to those in great need at this time. This year, we have the opportunity to join with others all over the world in supporting local and global projects that will equip women to make a difference in their communities across many, many nations. From its earliest beginnings, directly after the devastation of the Second World War, Baptist women felt compelled to begin the healing process for women who had been isolated by war. The first day of prayer in the late 1940s was in Europe and was promoted in this way. It was to be a means to reunite Baptists separated by the pain and devastation of war and to strengthen the spiritual bonds in years to come. I think it has indeed done that, and 70 years later, we are facing other wars right now. Our world is groaning under the pressure of poverty, of evil control, of dominating governments, of COVID-19, and we, as women, are called to stand alongside each other and to stand with the most vulnerable. I believe God is asking three things of us today. Firstly, Jesus asks us to love him. When asked by the religious leaders of the time, what is the greatest commandment of all scripture? We read in Matthew 22 that Jesus replied, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it, love your neighbor as yourself. It begins with loving God with all our heart, with our love, our devotion, the very deepest parts of us. Loving him with all of our soul, all of our emotion, our reactions, our caring for others, our serving. And then to love him with all of our mind, including him in every decision we make. Secondly, Jesus is asking us to serve others. In Matthew 14, we see Jesus with thousands of hungry people who need feeding. He could have asked anyone to help him, yet he turned to a small boy who had just a very small thing to offer. He had his own lunch, enough for him, 5 small loaves of bread and 2 small fish. In verse 18, we read that Jesus said, bring them to me. You know, very little in the hands of Jesus becomes very great. At the point of Jesus asking, the boy had a choice. He could keep what he knew he needed to eat that day, or he could offer it to God and ask him to multiply it. There were 2 miracles that day because he chose to do the second. First miracle was the choice by the little boy to offer his food to serve others. And the second miracle was the multiplication of that offering by Jesus. You know, thirdly, I think Jesus is asking us to give what we have. In 2 Kings in chapter 4, there's the story of a widow who has 2 small boys, and she is suffering greatly and in great need. She was in such desperate need of provision for herself, and the prophet Elisha comes to her, and he asks her, how can I help you? Tell me, what do you have in your house? What do you have in your hands? Your servant has nothing there at all, she said, except a small jar of olive oil. You know, Elisha goes on to ask her to offer him the little that she had, and I can only imagine how hard that would have been. He went on further and told her to go to her neighbors, go to her friends, and collect all the empty jars they have and to bring them back because God was about to do a miracle. She did as she was told, and Elisha prayed, and the oil flowed into every jar that she had collected. There were 2 miracles that happened that day. Firstly, the choice by the widow to give what she had. And then secondly, the multiplication of that offering by God. So what is he asking of us today? We need to pray. We need to pray for our sisters all over the world who need God's intervention, who need his protection, and who need his provision. And secondly, we need to give. Give what we have, no matter what the size, and ask God to do the miraculous, to multiply it, to help those who are in great need at the moment. You know, by ourselves, we can do a little. Together, we can do much. But together, with God, we'll see miracles happen.